Ladies and gentlemen, some of you are scrolling right now with a broken heart nobody knows about. You gave someone real love, real loyalty, real effort, and they still left you like you meant nothing. Now every song hurts, every memory hits differently. And the hardest part isn't losing them. It's waking up every day pretending you're okay when deep down you feel empty. You miss them, but at the same time, you're tired of being the only one fighting for the relationship. And maybe tonight you're asking yourself, why would God allow someone I loved so deeply to hurt me this badly? Stay with me, because this message is going to speak directly to the pain you've been hiding from everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you are drowning in problems nobody knows about. Bills are piling up your mind as exhausted relationships are breaking, and every night you pretend to be okay while silently falling apart inside. You've helped everyone else, but now you don't even know how to help yourself. You pray, you work, you try to stay strong, but nothing seems to change. And the scariest part is people around you can't even see the pain you carry behind your smile. But stay with me for a moment, because this message might be the answer your soul has been searching for. There are moments in life when everything around you says, it's over. The doors are closed, the money is low, the opportunities are gone, the relationship is broken, the diagnosis is heavy, the pressure is unbearable. And if you listen only to what you can see, you will convince yourself that nothing is changing. But I came to speak to the person who has been crying in silence, fighting battles nobody understands, carrying burdens that have exhausted your spirit. God is getting ready to do the impossible in your life. You have spent too much time measuring your future by your current condition. You have looked at your bank account and thought your dream was dead. You have looked at your age and thought your purpose had expired. You have looked at your failures and assumed your destiny was canceled. But God does his greatest work in impossible situations. He specializes in stepping into moments where human strength has reached its limit. When people run out of answers, heaven is just getting started. Some of you are standing in a season where you feel trapped between what was and what could be. You know God promised you more, but everything around you looks smaller than the promise. You're praying, but nothing appears to be moving. You're believing, but the pressure keeps increasing. And the enemy whispers, if God was going to do it, he would have done it by now. But delay does not mean denial. Silence does not mean absence. Just because God has not moved publicly does not mean he is not working privately. There are miracles being prepared behind doors you cannot see. There are opportunities being aligned while you sleep. There are conversations happening about your name in rooms you have never entered. God knows how to position people, shift timing, and arrange circumstances in ways your mind could never imagine. You think you are forgotten, but heaven has your address. You think you are overlooked, but God has already marked you for favor. The problem is that many people want God to explain the process before they trust him. But faith does not work that way. Faith says, even when I do not understand it, I still believe God is working. Faith keeps walking when the road is unclear. Faith keeps praying when the answer has not arrived. Faith keeps standing when everything inside you wants to quit. And some of you have been under attack precisely because your breakthrough is closer than you realize. The enemy does not fight empty people. He fights people carrying purpose. He fights people carrying destiny. He fights people who are one step away from seeing God move in a supernatural way. That pressure you have been feeling is not proof that God abandoned you. It may be proof that something powerful is about to happen. Every attack has an expiration date. Every storm has a limit. Every night eventually gives way to morning. You have cried enough tears. You have doubted yourself long enough. You have replayed your mistakes long enough. Stop speaking death over your future. Stop telling yourself you will never recover. Stop convincing yourself that your best days are behind you. God is not limited by what hurt you. He is not intimidated by what broke you. He can rebuild what life destroyed. He can restore years you thought were wasted. He can open one door that changes everything overnight. People will call it luck because they cannot explain favor. They will call it coincidence because they do not understand divine timing. But there are moments when God will move so powerfully in your life that nobody will be able to deny his hand on you. The same people who counted you out will have to watch God lift you up. The same voices that mocked your struggle will witness your testimony. But before the miracle becomes visible, your faith will be tested. God will ask you to keep trusting when nothing makes sense. He will ask you to keep believing while standing in uncertainty. Anybody can praise God after the breakthrough comes, but real faith praises him before the door opens. Real faith thanks him before the healing manifests. Real faith worships while the storm is still raging. Some of you are waiting for everything to become perfect before you move forward. But God is saying, take the step anyway. Move while you are afraid. Pray while you are hurting. Build while you are uncertain. You cannot allow fear to paralyze your destiny. Fear has stolen enough years from your life already. Fear will make you doubt opportunities that were sent to bless you. Fear will make you settle for less than what God promised. There is greatness inside of you that has been buried under disappointment. There is strength inside of you that you have not even discovered yet. You survived things that should have broken you. You endured pain that could have destroyed your mind. You kept getting back up when life knocked you down. Do you understand how powerful that is? The fact that you are still standing after everything you have faced is proof that God has been carrying you all along. The enemy thought the betrayal would destroy you. He thought the heartbreak would silence you. He thought the setback would make you give up on your purpose. But what tried to kill you is about to become the reason you rise stronger. God knows how to turn pain into power. He knows how to turn rejection into redirection. He knows how to use what was meant to break you as the very thing that pushes you into your destiny. And sometimes the reason the season became uncomfortable is because God refuses to let you stay where you no longer belong. Comfort can become a prison. Familiarity can become an enemy to growth. You kept asking God to change your life while holding on to the same mindset, the same fear, the same habits, the same environment. But impossible things require transformation. You cannot enter a new season carrying an old mentality. There are people listening to me right now who have almost given up. You are exhausted from fighting battles that nobody sees. You smile in public while breaking in private. You encourage everybody else while secretly wondering who will encourage you. But hear me clearly. God sees every silent tear. He hears every prayer you whispered when nobody else was around. He knows the weight you have been carrying. And just when you think you cannot go any further, God has a way of stepping into your situation with power you cannot explain. One phone call can change your life. One opportunity can shift your future. One moment of favor can erase years of struggle. Do not underestimate what God can do in a short amount of time. We serve a God who can turn a setback into a setup. A God who can make rivers in dry places. A God who can bring light into the darkest season of your life. The reason you cannot quit now is because there is too much attached to your destiny. Your breakthrough is not just about you. There are people who will be healed by your testimony. There are people who will find hope because you survived your storm. There are people who need to see what happens when somebody refuses to stop believing God. Sometimes God allows the process to stretch longer than you expected because He is building capacity inside you. If He gave you everything too early, you would not be ready to sustain it. So while you were praying for the blessing, God was developing your character. While you were asking for elevation, God was strengthening your spirit. While you were frustrated by the waiting season, heaven was preparing you for something bigger than you imagined. Do not despise the process. The process is where strength is built. The process is where wisdom grows. The process is where your faith matures. Nobody likes the wilderness, but the wilderness prepares you for the promise. And some of you are closer to your breakthrough than you think. The pressure intensified because the enemy senses what is coming. But what God has ordained for your life cannot be canceled by opposition. You may not feel qualified. You may not feel strong enough. You may not feel worthy. But God has never been limited by human qualifications. He uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. He takes broken stories and turns them into testimonies. He takes people who were overlooked and places them in positions nobody expected. Stop comparing your journey to everybody else's. Stop thinking you are behind because your timeline looks different. God's timing is intentional. Some blessings require preparation. Some doors require maturity. Some miracles require endurance. And when the time is right, what God releases into your life will be worth every tear, every delay, every sleepless night, every battle you had to survive. There are chains breaking off your mind even now. Chains of fear, chains of insecurity, chains of doubt. You cannot step into your future while staying connected to the lies of your past. The enemy wants you trapped in regret because regret keeps you from recognizing possibility. But God is calling you higher. He is calling you to believe again, to dream again, to hope again. You thought the chapter was over, but God is still writing the story. You thought the damage was permanent, but God is still restoring. You thought the opportunity was lost forever, but God knows how to create new doors where none existed before. Impossible is not difficult for God. Impossible is where He demonstrates His power the most. Some of you have been praying small prayers because disappointment taught you to lower your expectations. But God is saying, expand your faith. Stop asking for survival when heaven has called you to thrive. Stop expecting barely enough when God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all you could ask or think. This next season of your life will require courage. You cannot enter it carrying a defeated mindset. You cannot keep talking like somebody who has already lost. Life and death are in the power of your words. Speak hope over your future. Speak strength over your spirit. Speak victory over your situation. Even if your voice shakes, keep declaring that God is working things out in your favor. There will be moments when you feel like quitting right before the breakthrough comes. The enemy always fights hardest when he knows his time is running out. But you have survived too much to stop now. You have come too far to abandon your faith. God did not bring you this far just to leave you in the middle of the storm. The impossible thing you have been praying for may already be moving toward you. The healing, the restoration, the opportunity, the breakthrough, the peace, the open door. What if the delay was not punishment? What if God was aligning everything perfectly behind the scenes? What if this difficult season was preparing you for a level of blessing you could not have handled before? You are not buried. You are planted. And planted things grow in hidden places before they ever become visible. Just because nobody sees progress does not mean growth is not happening. Roots are developing beneath the surface. Strength is forming in private. God is preparing something that will eventually become undeniable. And when God finally reveals what he has been doing in your life, the struggle will make sense. The waiting will make sense. The tears will make sense. You will realize that every painful moment was shaping you for something greater than you could have imagined. You will look back at the seasons that almost broke you and realize they were the very seasons that built your strength. The nights you spent crying taught you how to depend on God in ways comfort never could. The betrayal taught you discernment. The rejection taught you resilience. The waiting taught you patience. And the pain you wanted removed immediately became the fire that refined your spirit. There are some battles that were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. Until pressure came, you did not know how much strength you were carrying. Until adversity showed up, you did not realize how powerful your faith had become. Sometimes God allows the pressure because pressure exposes what is truly inside of you. And despite everything you have faced, you are still here. Still believing, still hoping, still standing. That means heaven is not finished with you yet. Some people walked away from your life because they were only assigned to a chapter, not the entire story. Stop grieving over people who could not recognize your value. Stop chasing validation from individuals who were never meant to understand your purpose. Everybody cannot go where God is taking you. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that stayed small, stayed afraid, stayed uncertain. But growth will disturb relationships that were built around limitation. God is separating you from environments that no longer match your destiny. And yes, separation can hurt. Growth can feel lonely. Transformation can feel uncomfortable. But there are moments when God has to remove distractions so you can hear his voice clearly again. Too many people are connected to noise, connected to negativity, connected to fear. But this next season requires clarity. It requires focus. It requires faith that is not dependent on public approval. You have spent too much energy doubting yourself because of what somebody else said about you. But people can only see your history. God sees your potential. People judge your mistakes. God looks at your destiny. People may define you by what you used to be, but heaven is calling you by what you are becoming. Do not allow temporary failures to create permanent conclusions about your future. Some of the strongest people are the ones who had to rebuild themselves quietly while the world kept moving as if nothing happened. They smiled through heartbreak. They showed up while fighting anxiety. They carried responsibilities while their own spirit felt exhausted. And maybe nobody applauded your survival, but God saw every moment you chose not to give up. The enemy wanted your discouragement to become your identity. He wanted your pain to convince you that your life would never change. But pain is a chapter, not the entire story. Storms pass. Darkness fades. And what feels permanent today can change in one moment when God steps into the situation. There are doors opening that you did not force open. There are blessings coming that you did not manipulate into existence. There are opportunities being prepared that cannot be blocked by human hands. When God decides to elevate you, no opposition can stop it. People may try to delay it. Circumstances may try to challenge it. But what God has ordained will stand. Some of you have been carrying guilt from decisions you wish you could undo. You keep replaying old mistakes in your mind, punishing yourself for things God already forgave. But you cannot move into your future while chained to your past. Shame will keep you stuck in a place God already called you out of. The enemy loves reminding you of your failures because he knows that a person trapped in regret struggles to walk in confidence. But hear this clearly. Your mistakes did not cancel your purpose. Your failures did not disqualify you from grace. God already knew every weakness, every flaw, every wrong turn before he called you, and still he chose you. Still he kept you alive. Still he continued to place purpose inside your spirit. There is something powerful about a person who keeps trusting God after disappointment. Anybody can believe when life is easy, but when somebody has been wounded, betrayed, overlooked, and still chooses faith, heaven pays attention to that kind of endurance. Some of you do not realize how strong you have become because you have been in survival mode for so long. But strength has been developing inside you through every battle. The next chapter of your life will require a different version of you. You cannot think like the old you and expect new results. You cannot carry old fears into a new season of favor. The mindset that helped you survive may not be the mindset that helps you thrive. God is expanding your vision because what he is about to do in your life is bigger than what you have settled for. Stop shrinking your dreams to match your current reality. Stop limiting your expectations because of past disappointments. Your history is not your ceiling. Your current struggle is not your final destination. God can take a person from obscurity to influence in ways nobody can explain. And sometimes the reason people misunderstand you is because they are judging you from your present season instead of your future potential. A seed looks insignificant until it grows into something undeniable. Do not despise small beginnings. Greatness often starts in hidden places. Before the world sees the fruit, there is always a season of unseen growth. There are things God is doing inside you right now that will not make sense until later. You keep asking for answers while God is building trust. You keep demanding clarity while God is teaching dependence. Faith does not always receive full explanations. Sometimes faith simply says, God, I do not understand this season, but I trust your plan. And trust becomes powerful when life gives you reasons to quit. Some of you are one decision away from abandoning the very thing you prayed for because the process became difficult. But every great breakthrough requires endurance. Every promise faces resistance. Every calling encounters opposition. The pressure is not proof you are failing. It may be confirmation that your purpose is significant. The enemy attacks what threatens him. He fights potential before it becomes visible. He sends discouragement because he knows how dangerous a confident believer can become. Imagine what could happen if you stopped doubting yourself and fully believed what God placed inside you. Imagine the impact you could make if fear no longer controlled your decisions. There are dreams buried beneath years of disappointment that God is about to resurrect. There are visions you abandoned because life became painful. But what God planted inside your spirit was never meant to die. It may have been delayed, it may have been ignored, it may have been hidden beneath survival and struggle, but purpose has a way of calling you back. This is not the season to settle for less than what heaven intended for you. Stop accepting relationships that drain your spirit. Stop staying in environments that constantly diminish your value. Stop agreeing with voices that speak limitation over your life. The people around you should not constantly pull you away from faith, purpose, and growth. And understand this. Not everybody will celebrate your elevation. Some people were comfortable with your brokenness because it made them feel secure. But when God starts healing you, restoring you, and lifting you, everybody will not know how to handle the new version of you. Do not apologize for growth. Do not apologize for setting boundaries. Do not apologize for becoming who God created you to be. There is oil on your struggle. There is purpose in your process. There is power being developed in your private battles. The tears were not wasted. The waiting was not meaningless. The lonely seasons were not punishment. God was strengthening areas of your life that nobody else could see. Some blessings require isolation before manifestation. Before elevation comes preparation. Before visibility comes development. And too many people want public success without private transformation. But God works deeply before he works visibly. He changes the inside before the outside catches up. The reason you cannot afford to give up now is because your story is still unfolding. You are judging the entire journey from one painful chapter. But one chapter cannot define the whole book. There are victories you have not seen yet. There are miracles you have not experienced yet. There are prayers that are closer to being answered than you realize. Every setback did not come to stop you. Some setbacks redirected you away from what would have destroyed you. Some closed doors protected you from things you were not prepared to handle. Sometimes God says no because he sees what you cannot see, and later you will thank him for the doors that never opened. You may feel weak right now, but weakness is often the place where God demonstrates his strength most powerfully. When you run out of your own ability, you begin depending on supernatural help. And there are some victories in your future that will only happen because God stepped into situations human effort could never fix. You are entering a season where peace will return to your mind, joy will return to your spirit, confidence will return to your voice. You have spent enough time surviving in fear. This next chapter is about walking in authority, clarity, and expectation. Because when God gets ready to do the impossible in your life, he does not need permission from circumstances. He does not need approval from critics. He does not need ideal conditions to release favor. He can bless you in the middle of chaos. He can provide in the middle of shortage. He can create opportunity in the middle of uncertainty. He can make a way where there appears to be none. And what is coming into your life will not be explained by luck, connections, or coincidence. It will be undeniable evidence that God was with you the entire time, even in the moments when you felt abandoned. Heaven was still orchestrating details you could not see. There were prayers being answered in ways you did not recognize. There were dangers you never saw because God protected you before the attack ever reached your life. Some of the greatest miracles are the ones you never even realized happened because heaven intervened quietly behind the scenes. You keep focusing on what did not work out, but take a moment and remember everything you survived. Remember the nights you thought you would never recover emotionally, yet somehow you kept going. Remember the seasons when you did not know how you would make it financially, yet provision still arrived. Remember the moments when fear tried to consume your mind, yet peace somehow carried you through another day. That was not luck. That was grace sustaining you when your own strength was running low. And if God carried you through those seasons, why would he abandon you now? Why would the same God who protected you yesterday suddenly fail you tomorrow? The enemy wants you to suffer from spiritual amnesia. He wants you to forget every victory, every breakthrough, every answered prayer, so you will panic in your current battle. But your history with God is evidence that your future is still covered. There are people listening right now who feel tired in their soul. Not just physically tired, but emotionally exhausted. You have been strong for so long that you do not even remember what rest feels like. You have carried responsibilities while silently fighting battles in your mind. You have poured into everybody else while secretly feeling empty yourself. But God is not ignoring your exhaustion. He sees the weight you have been carrying. Sometimes strength is not loud. Sometimes strength looks like getting out of bed when depression told you to stay down. Sometimes strength looks like praying with tears in your eyes because you do not have the energy for long speeches anymore. Sometimes strength looks like surviving one painful day at a time, and never underestimate the kind of faith it takes to keep showing up while your heart is healing. The world celebrates people after the victory, but heaven honors people who keep believing during the struggle. It takes courage to trust God when life feels uncertain. It takes courage to continue hoping after disappointment. It takes courage to keep your heart open after betrayal tried to harden you. But that courage is producing something inside you that comfort never could. You are becoming stronger than the storm that came against you. The pressure that was supposed to break you is building endurance. The challenge that was supposed to stop you is developing wisdom. And one day you will realize that what felt like destruction was actually preparation for a higher level of purpose. Do not confuse delay with defeat. There are blessings that require timing. A farmer does not plant a seed one day and expect a harvest the next morning. Growth happens in stages. Development takes time. And some of you are frustrated because you want immediate manifestation while God is still working beneath the surface. But hidden seasons are not wasted seasons. Some of the most important work God does happens where nobody else can see it. Roots grow underground before fruit appears above ground. Character develops in private before influence becomes public. And too many people want visible success without invisible preparation. But lasting blessings require deep foundations. God is preparing you for something that will demand maturity, discipline, and spiritual strength. The level you are praying for will require a stronger mindset than the one you had before. You cannot carry insecurity into rooms where God is calling you to lead. You cannot carry fear into opportunities heaven prepared specifically for you. This season is not only about changing your circumstances, It is about transforming you. Some of you have underestimated yourselves for years because of what you went through. Trauma convinced you that you were weak. Failure convinced you that you were incapable. Rejection convinced you that you were not valuable. But your experiences do not define your identity. What happened to you is not greater than what God placed inside you. There is still purpose in your life. There is still calling in your spirit. There are still gifts inside you that the world has not seen yet. Stop speaking about yourself as if your story is over. Stop treating your current condition like your permanent reality. God is not finished writing your testimony, and understand this clearly. Your environment may not always confirm your destiny. Joseph had dreams while standing in a pit. David was anointed while still surrounded by obscurity. Greatness often begins in places that look completely opposite of the promise. So stop allowing your current location to convince you that God forgot about your future. Just because your surroundings are limited does not mean your destiny is limited. Just because people around you cannot see your value does not mean heaven failed to place greatness inside you. Sometimes people misjudge you because they only see your present season. But God sees the finished picture while you are still in process. The enemy wants you discouraged because discouragement weakens expectation, and expectation matters. You cannot receive what you have already convinced yourself is impossible. That is why the battle in your mind is so intense. The enemy knows that if he can keep you doubting, fearful, and hopeless, you will stop reaching for what God intended for your life. But something is shifting in your spirit. You are entering a season where your faith will become stronger than your fear. Your vision will become louder than your insecurity. Your purpose will become greater than your pain. And once you understand that God is with you, opposition will no longer intimidate you the way it once did. There are battles you used to cry over that you will soon overcome with confidence. There are things that once drained your peace that will eventually lose their power over your mind. Healing is happening in places inside you that nobody else can see yet. God is restoring your confidence little by little, rebuilding your hope little by little, renewing your strength little by little. Do not rush the healing process. Broken things that heal incorrectly often break again under pressure. God is not interested in temporary restoration. He wants complete healing. He wants freedom that reaches deep into your heart, your mind, and your spirit. And sometimes that requires confronting pain you tried to ignore for years. But healing does not mean your past never happened. It means your past no longer controls your future. It means the memory may still exist, but the chains attached to it are being broken. You are not called to remain trapped in cycles that God already gave you power to overcome. There are generational patterns ending with you. Fear stops with you. Limitation stops with you. Destructive cycles stop with you. What your family normalized does not have to become your permanent reality. God is raising you up to become evidence that transformation is possible. And whenever God calls somebody higher, resistance increases. Do not be surprised by the warfare around your purpose. Do not be shocked when distractions appear right before breakthrough. The enemy understands the significance of your destiny even when you do not fully recognize it yourself. That is why you cannot afford to stay connected to negativity. Protect your spirit. Protect your focus. Protect your peace. Every voice speaking into your life should not have equal access to your mind. Some people project their fears onto your future because they cannot imagine a life bigger than their own limitations. But your assignment is not to live according to somebody else's fears. Your assignment is to trust God enough to move forward even when the path feels uncertain. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is choosing obedience despite fear. And there are moments when obedience will not make sense logically. God may ask you to step before you feel ready. He may call you to trust him before you have all the details. But miracles often require movement. The Red Sea did not open before they started walking. Sometimes provision appears after obedience begins. You have spent enough time waiting for perfect conditions. Perfect conditions do not exist. If you wait until fear disappears completely, until every doubt is gone, until every obstacle moves, you may stay stuck forever. At some point, you have to decide that your faith in God is greater than your fear of failure. And hear this clearly. Failure is not the end of your story. Some of the people God used most powerfully failed publicly before they succeeded greatly. Failure can teach lessons that success never could. Failure can humble you, strengthen you, sharpen you, and redirect you. What matters is not whether you fell. What matters is whether you got back up again. The enemy wanted your failures to silence your purpose. But God knows how to redeem broken stories. He knows how to take shattered pieces and create something beautiful from them. Nothing you surrendered to God is wasted. Not the pain, not the tears, not the waiting, not even the mistakes. And one day, the very things that once made you cry will become part of the testimony that inspires somebody else to keep believing. The storm that nearly destroyed you will become proof that God can carry people through impossible seasons. Your survival will speak hope to people who are ready to give up. Your breakthrough will remind others that delay is not denial. Your life will become evidence that when God decides to do the impossible, no force on earth can stop what heaven has already declared. Because when heaven speaks over your life, no amount of opposition can cancel what God has already ordained. People may try to block you, misunderstand you, criticize you, or underestimate you, but they do not have the final authority over your destiny. God has the final word, and when God says rise, no pit can keep you buried. When God says move forward, no closed door can permanently stop your progress. Some of you have been fighting battles in secret for so long that you forgot what victory feels like. You became so accustomed to surviving that you stopped expecting joy. You learned how to function while wounded. You learned how to smile while exhausted. You learned how to carry pain quietly because life demanded strength from you before you even had time to heal. But God did not create you merely to survive every season. There is still joy ahead of you. There is still peace ahead of you. There is still abundance ahead of you. The enemy tried to convince you that struggle would be your permanent address. But storms are temporary. Seasons change. Circumstances shift. And the same God who carried you through the wilderness knows how to bring you into promise. Do not build your identity around temporary pain. You are not your struggle. You are not your disappointment. You are not the worst moment of your life. There is greatness hidden beneath the layers of hurt you have carried. There is confidence buried underneath years of rejection. There is purpose waiting underneath all the fear that tried to silence your voice. And God is calling those things out of you now. He is pulling you out of hiding, pulling you out of insecurity, pulling you out of the mentality that says, maybe nothing will ever change. No, something is changing. Your perspective is changing. Your faith is growing. Your spirit is becoming stronger. And the very things that once intimidated you are beginning to lose their control over your mind. There was a time when fear would stop you completely. Now you are learning how to move forward while still feeling uncertain. There was a time when rejection would crush your confidence. Now you are realizing that not every closed door was meant to be open. Some doors had to close because they were connected to places too small for your destiny. Some relationships ended because they could not grow where God was taking you. Some opportunities disappeared because heaven had something greater prepared. And while you cried over what left your life, God was protecting you from things you did not understand at the time. You cannot judge God's protection only by what He gives you. Sometimes His protection is revealed in what He removes. Some people were assignments, not permanent companions. Some seasons were classrooms, not lifelong destinations. And if you stay attached to what God already told you to release, you may delay the very breakthrough you have been praying for. There comes a moment when you must trust God enough to let go of what no longer aligns with your future. And yes, letting go can hurt. It hurts when familiar things disappear. It hurts when comfort zones are disrupted. It hurts when people you loved walk away. But growth often demands separation. Elevation often requires transition. You cannot carry old baggage into a new season. Some of you are asking God for expansion while still clinging to the mindset that kept you limited. But God is stretching your thinking because what He is preparing for your life cannot fit inside the small expectations you used to carry. You have underestimated what God can do through you. You have looked at your flaws more than your potential. You have focused on your weaknesses more than your calling. But God already knew every imperfection before He placed purpose inside your life. Your limitations do not intimidate Him. Your past does not surprise Him. Your failures did not cancel His plan. And this is why you cannot keep disqualifying yourself every time God opens a door. Stop talking yourself out of opportunities because you feel unworthy. Stop shrinking yourself because fear whispers that you are not enough. If God opened the door, then grace will meet you there. You do not have to be perfect to walk into purpose. You simply have to be willing to trust God step by step. Some of the greatest miracles happen when ordinary people decide to obey despite uncertainty. Moses felt unqualified. Gideon felt afraid. Jeremiah thought he was too young. Yet God still used them because heaven is not searching for perfect people. Heaven is searching for willing hearts, and willingness can take you places talent alone never could. There are gifted people sitting still because fear controls them. There are talented people trapped in comfort zones because they are afraid to fail publicly. But faith says, even if I tremble, I will still move. Faith says, even if I do not understand every detail, I will still trust God enough to take the next step. Some of you are waiting for complete confidence before you begin. But confidence grows through movement. Strength develops through resistance. Courage is built in moments when you choose obedience despite fear. And every step you take in faith weakens the chains that once held you back. You are not the same person you were a year ago. Life changed you. Pain changed you. Prayer changed you. The battles you survived developed maturity in you that comfort never could have produced. There are things you tolerate less now because your discernment has grown. There are things you recognize more quickly because experience taught you wisdom. And wisdom is expensive. Sometimes it costs heartbreak. Sometimes it costs disappointment. Sometimes it costs lonely seasons where God strips away distractions so you can grow deeper roots. But every painful lesson carried value. Every difficult season produced something inside you that will matter in the future. The enemy wanted bitterness to grow from your pain, but God is growing wisdom instead. He is teaching you how to love without losing yourself, teaching you how to forgive without returning to bondage, teaching you how to trust Him even after life wounded you deeply. And hear me carefully. Healing does not make you weak. Sensitivity does not make you weak. Having emotions does not make you weak. Some of the strongest people are the ones who remain soft-hearted after surviving hard seasons. Anybody can become cold. Anybody can build walls. But it takes real strength to keep your heart open after disappointment tried to close it forever. God is restoring tenderness to areas of your life that pain tried to harden. Because if pain hardens your spirit completely, you may block not only hurt, but also the blessings heaven is trying to send into your life. You cannot allow betrayal to convince you that everybody is your enemy. You cannot allow disappointment to convince you that hope is dangerous. There are still good things waiting ahead of you. There are still genuine people you have not met yet. There are still opportunities that will restore your faith again. There are still prayers that heaven fully intends to answer, and when those blessings arrive, you will realize why the enemy fought your mind so intensely. You will realize why discouragement attacked you repeatedly. The enemy was trying to exhaust you before your breakthrough appeared. He was trying to make you quit while your miracle was already developing behind the scenes. But you survived the attack. You survived the heartbreak. You survived the confusion. You survived the nights when you questioned everything, and survival was not accidental. God preserved you because your assignment is not finished yet. There are people connected to your future who need your obedience. There are lives that will be impacted because you refused to quit. Sometimes your breakthrough is bigger than you realize. It is connected to family members who will be inspired by your faith, connected to strangers who will hear your testimony, connected to generations that will benefit from the sacrifices you are making now. That is why this season matters so much. The enemy is not attacking you randomly. He attacks significance. He attacks influence. He attacks purpose. He recognizes potential even when you are still struggling to recognize it yourself. But the attack will not have the final word. God's promise is greater than the pressure. God's purpose is stronger than the opposition. And what heaven has declared over your life cannot be erased by temporary circumstances. Some of you are about to enter rooms you once prayed to enter, about to experience blessings you once thought were impossible, about to witness doors opening in ways that will leave you speechless. Not because you earned it perfectly, but because grace carried you through seasons where your own strength would have failed. And when those moments come, remember the nights you almost gave up. Remember the prayers whispered through tears. Remember the days you kept moving even while your heart was tired, because those difficult seasons were building the strength required for where you are going next. The process was painful because the calling is significant. The pressure was heavy because the purpose is great. The warfare intensified because the enemy recognized that your future carries impact beyond what you currently understand, and now God is preparing to reveal in public what He has been developing in private. The hidden prayers, the unseen growth, the silent endurance, the quiet faithfulness. Heaven saw all of it. Every tear mattered. Every prayer mattered. Every moment you chose to trust God instead of surrendering to despair mattered. The truth is, sometimes God removes people from your life because He can see what your emotions refuse to accept. You were fighting to keep someone who was slowly destroying your peace, your confidence, and your spirit. Love is not supposed to leave you constantly anxious, begging for attention, crying yourself to sleep, and questioning your worth every single day. Real love brings peace, not confusion. Real love heals, not constantly breaks you, and I know it hurts. I know you replay conversations in your mind wondering what you could have done differently. You blame yourself. You overthink every mistake. You wonder if you were not attractive enough, not good enough, not lovable enough. But listen carefully. The way someone treated you is not proof of your value. Some people break good hearts because they are broken themselves. Some people leave not because you were hard to love, but because they were never ready to value what God placed inside you. You cannot keep destroying yourself trying to be enough for someone who never appreciated you properly. Stop chasing people who only remember your value after losing you. Stop begging for love that should have been given freely. The person God truly has for you will not make you question your importance every day. They will not disappear when life gets difficult. They will not make you feel alone while standing beside you. But before God sends the right person, He often uses heartbreak to heal the parts of you that depended too much on human love. Because some of you made people your emotional home instead of making God your foundation. You attached your happiness, your confidence, and your peace to one person. So when they left, it felt like your entire world collapsed. But maybe this pain is teaching you that your worth was never supposed to depend on who stays or who leaves. And yes, healing takes time. Some nights will still hurt. Some memories will still hit your heart unexpectedly, but do not allow temporary pain to convince you that your life is over. One heartbreak cannot cancel your future. One rejection cannot erase your destiny. God is still writing your story. Instead of chasing someone who walked away, start rebuilding yourself. Pray again. Focus on your peace again. Take care of your mind again. Become the version of yourself that heartbreak tried to destroy. And one day you will look back and realize the person you cried over was only a chapter, not the entire story. Because sometimes losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding yourself again. Sometimes heartbreak is not punishment, it is protection. God heard conversations you did not hear. He saw intentions you did not see. He removed people who would have damaged you even more if they stayed longer. And the day God heals your heart completely, you will stop begging for bare minimum love. You will stop settling for temporary attention. You will stop chasing people who only love you when it is convenient. Because healed people recognize their value differently. And once you truly understand your worth, you will never again fight to stay in places where your soul is constantly suffering. Some of you have spent so much time trying to be loved by the wrong person that you forgot how to love yourself properly. You kept lowering your standards, ignoring red flags, accepting disrespect, and calling it love because you were afraid of losing someone. But real love should never cost you your peace, your dignity, or your self-worth. The moment you constantly have to beg for attention, beg for honesty, beg for effort, something inside that relationship is already broken. And many people stay in painful relationships because they are more afraid of loneliness than heartbreak. They would rather stay emotionally exhausted with the wrong person than sit alone and heal. But being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing is losing yourself while trying to hold on to someone who no longer values your heart. And you have to understand that not every person who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some people are lessons. Some people reveal your weaknesses. Some people expose the areas where you still need healing. And some people come into your life only long enough to teach you what love should never feel like again. And stop blaming yourself for somebody else's inability to love you correctly. You cannot force loyalty out of disloyal people. You cannot force maturity out of emotionally unavailable people. You cannot force somebody to recognize your worth if they are committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes the hardest lesson is accepting that no matter how deeply you love someone, you cannot heal them by sacrificing yourself. And hear this carefully, people who truly value you do not constantly leave you confused. They do not repeatedly disappear and return only when it benefits them. They do not make promises during emotional moments and then abandon you when consistency is required. Love is not only about words. Anybody can say, "I love you." Real love is revealed through effort, honesty, consistency, and respect. And some of you gave your whole heart to people who only gave you temporary attention. And now you are sitting with emotional wounds, wondering why you were not enough. But the truth is, your value was never the problem. The problem was that you were pouring genuine love into someone who lacked the emotional depth to handle it properly. And you cannot keep romanticizing people who repeatedly hurt you. Stop making excuses for behavior that destroys your mental peace. Stop saying maybe they'll change. Stop ignoring patterns that keep breaking your heart. Somebody who truly loves you will not repeatedly make you feel unwanted, unloved, and emotionally abandoned. And yes, letting go hurts. It hurts when you imagined a future with someone. It hurts when you built emotional attachment so deeply that their absence feels unbearable. It hurts when memories continue replaying in your mind at night. But sometimes holding on hurts even more than letting go. Some relationships slowly drain your confidence, your joy, your emotional stability, and your connection with yourself. And you deserve relationships where love feels safe, not stressful. You deserve honesty instead of mixed signals. You deserve effort instead of excuses. You deserve communication instead of silence. And until you truly believe you deserve healthy love, you will continue tolerating things that damage your spirit. And a lot of people confuse attachment with love. Attachment says, I cannot live without you. Love says, I care about your peace, your growth, and your well-being. Attachment often comes from fear, insecurity, loneliness, or emotional dependency. That is why some people stay connected to relationships that are destroying them internally. They are addicted to the emotional cycle, even though it hurts them repeatedly. But healing begins when you stop chasing people who are running away from you emotionally. Healing begins when you stop trying to convince someone to choose you. The right person will not need endless reminders to value your presence. You should never have to compete for basic love and respect. And some of you need to forgive yourselves. Forgive yourself for ignoring your intuition. Forgive yourself for staying too long. Forgive yourself for loving deeply. Having a good heart is not your weakness. Your ability to love genuinely is a gift. The problem is that you kept giving that love to people who only appreciated you temporarily. And do not let heartbreak turn you cold. Do not let betrayal convince you that everybody is the same. There are still genuine people in this world. There are still people capable of honesty, loyalty, and emotional maturity. But before you meet those people, you must first heal the version of yourself that accepts less than you deserve. And some people keep repeating the same painful relationships because they never healed from the previous one. They carry old wounds into new connections. They seek validation instead of healthy partnership. They confuse attention with affection because deep inside they are starving emotionally. And until you heal internally, you may continue attracting relationships that reflect your unresolved pain. And that is why healing matters so much. Spend time rebuilding your relationship with yourself. Learn who you are outside of relationships. Learn how to enjoy your own company again. Learn how to protect your peace instead of sacrificing it for temporary emotional comfort. And stop checking their social media every day, hoping to see signs they miss you. Stop reopening wounds that are trying to close. Every time you keep revisiting somebody who damaged your heart, you delay your own healing. You cannot move forward while emotionally living in the past. And understand this closure does not always come from another person apologizing. Sometimes closure comes from accepting the truth, accepting that the relationship hurt you, accepting that somebody failed to value your heart properly, accepting that staying attached to pain will not change the outcome. Real closure often happens inside your own spirit when you finally decide to choose peace over emotional chaos. And there are people listening right now who are emotionally exhausted because they loved someone who constantly gave mixed signals. One day they acted caring, the next day distant. One moment they made you feel special, the next moment they made you feel invisible. And that inconsistency slowly destroyed your emotional stability. And love should not feel like emotional survival. You should not constantly analyze messages, overthink silence, and question where you stand in someone's life. Healthy love brings clarity. It brings reassurance. It brings emotional safety. And if somebody truly wants to be in your life, you will not have to force everything alone. Relationships require effort from both sides. Stop carrying relationships by yourself while the other person gives the bare minimum. Stop overextending yourself for people who only love you conditionally. And sometimes God allows heartbreak because he knows you would have stayed in something that was slowly destroying you. Sometimes the person you cried over losing was the very person blocking your peace, growth, and future. And later when healing comes, you will thank God for removing what you once begged him to keep. And right now your pain may feel permanent, but emotions change. Seasons change. Healing happens gradually. One day you will wake up and notice their name no longer controls your emotions the same way. The memories will stop hurting as deeply. The attachment will weaken, and you will begin rediscovering the parts of yourself that pain tried to erase. And do not rush healing. Some wounds need time. Some heartbreaks leave deep emotional scars. Pretending you are okay when you are not only delays recovery. Be honest with yourself. Cry if you need to cry. Pray if you need strength. Talk to God honestly about your pain. Healing begins when you stop hiding your emotions from yourself. And while you are healing, be careful not to isolate yourself completely. Pain often makes people withdraw from everyone. But you still need support, healthy friendships, and people who genuinely care about your well-being. Not everybody around you is meant to hurt you. And most importantly, stop measuring your worth by who rejected you. Rejection is not proof that you are unlovable. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes God removes people because they cannot go where He is taking you. And although rejection hurts in the moment, it often protects you from future pain you cannot yet see. And there are people who lost years trying to force relationships that God never intended to last. They ignored warning signs because emotions blinded them. They stayed loyal to people who continuously disrespected them. And by the time the relationship ended, they barely recognized themselves anymore. And do not lose yourself trying to save a connection that only one person is fighting for. Love should not constantly feel one-sided. You deserve mutual effort, mutual care, mutual respect. And if someone walked away from your life, stop chasing them endlessly. You cannot force somebody to stay through guilt, pressure, or emotional exhaustion. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let people leave and trust that God will heal what their absence broke. And because your future is bigger than one heartbreak, your purpose is greater than one failed relationship. Your life is not over because somebody failed to recognize your value. God still has plans for happiness, your healing, and your peace. And one day you will love again without fear controlling you. One day your heart will feel light again. One day you will stop comparing everybody to the person who hurt you. One day the pain that currently keeps you awake at night will no longer have power over your spirit. But until that day comes, keep choosing yourself. Keep protecting your peace. Keep rebuilding your confidence. Keep trusting God even when healing feels slow, because the same God who carried you through heartbreak is fully capable of restoring your joy, your confidence, your hope, and your ability to love again. And then when you finally heal completely, you will realize something powerful. The breakup that once felt like the end of your world was actually the beginning of your transformation. You became stronger, wiser, more emotionally aware, more connected to God, more aware of your worth. And sometimes the greatest blessing is not getting the person you wanted. Sometimes the greatest blessing is becoming the person you were meant to be after surviving the pain that almost destroyed you.